Well, here we are. The end of the line, the final scan, the last stop before the loading dock, straight to hell. I'm Lucius Voss, Spectral Supervisor, Warehouse Warlock, and your one-man crisis management team. And this is the explosive conclusion to Shipping and Handling, brought to you by RedBadAndy and our devout ensemble of vocal talents. Over the last 3 shifts, we've seen body parts mislabeled, sanity returned to sender, and 1 or 2 ethical boundaries packed in bubble wrap. But tonight, it's time to open the last crate. The big one. The one they buried under 12 pallets of plausible deniability. No more clocking in, no more safety meetings, just the truth and whatever's crawling beneath it. So, don your blood-slicked gloves, grab the bolt cutters, and if you've still got a soul left, now would be a good time to misplace it. Let's finish this. As we approached the restricted area, I felt a growing sense of dread coiling in the pit of my stomach. The wheels of the cart squeaked slightly against the concrete floor, the sound amplified in the otherwise silent warehouse. Mr. Jaspin moved with an unsettling grace, his gait fluid yet somehow mechanical, like a marionette operated by an expert puppeteer.
"You must have questions,"
he said without turning around, his voice carrying easily despite its softness.
"New employees always do."
No, sir, I lied, just focused on doing my job correctly. A low chuckle escaped him, distressing in its lack of mirth.
Admirable disposition. But your eyes betray your curiosity.
He stopped abruptly before the keypad secured door.
The human mind abhors a mystery, doesn't it? Always seeking to categorize, to understand.
He punched in a complex sequence on the keypad, his long fingers moving with practiced precision. The heavy door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, releasing a blast of frigid air that smelled faintly of formaldehyde and something else I couldn't identify, something metallic and organic at the same time.
"After you,"
Mr. Jaspin said, gesturing with an elegant sweep of his arm. I hesitated for just a moment before pushing the cart forward. The room beyond was bathed in a soft blue light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The temperature dropped dramatically as we entered, our breath immediately visible with small clouds in the air. Despite the cold, I felt beads of sweat forming on my forehead. The room was much larger than I'd expected, stretching back further than the blue lighting allowed me to see clearly. Along both walls stood rows of containers similar to the crimson ones we were transporting, though these varied in size and coloration. Some were upright, like standing coffins, while others lay horizontal on raised platforms. Each had the same viewing panel, though mercifully, most were positioned so I couldn't see inside.
"Welcome to the gallery,"
Mr. Jaspin said, his voice taking on a reverent quality.
"where art and function merge into something transcendent.
In the corner of the room stood a large stainless steel table that resembled an operating theater setup, complete with drains in the floor beneath it. Surrounding it were tools hanging on a rack, fine chisels, special saws, and instruments I couldn't identify that looked more medical than artistic.
Place it here,
Mr. Jaspin instructed, pointing to an empty space along the wall. As we maneuvered the container into position, I accidentally bumped against one of the others. A hollow thumping sound came from inside, followed by what I could only describe as a muffled whimper. I froze, my blood turning to ice.
Careful, please.
Mr. Jaspin's voice remained pleasant, but something dangerous flickered in his mercury eyes. Sorry, I mumbled, my heart hammering against my ribs. Once the container was positioned, Mr. Jaspin produced another key from his pocket, this one brass with an ornate handle. He inserted it into a lock on the crimson container, turning it with a soft click. The lid didn't open, but a small control panel illuminated along the side, displaying temperature and humidity readings.
Perfect,
he murmured, adjusting something on the panel.
This particular piece requires precise environmental conditions. Too cold and certain components become brittle. Too warm and, well, awareness can be problematic at this stage.
Awareness. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I knew I shouldn't, but the question escaped my lips before I could restrain myself. Mr. Jaspin, I began, caution warring with horror in my mind. What exactly is the Proud Tailor's business, specifically? Mr. Jaspin turned to me, his head tilting at an angle that seemed just slightly wrong, like a bird studying potential prey. For a long moment, he simply observed me, his expression unreadable. Then his lips curved upward in that terrible approximation of a smile.
We create perfection. Humanity is flawed, fragile, temporary, inconsistent. We improve upon nature's design. We sculpt, refine, and transform. We weave the threads of life and death, the mundane and the extraordinary, into constructs of breathtaking form and function. Not just with simple cloth, but with flesh itself, tailoring in its truest, most exalted sense.
A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. Transform people into what?
Such limited terminology.
He sighed, running his fingers lovingly across the container's surface.
We prefer to think of it as elevation. The raw material becomes something greater, more permanent. Would you like a demonstration?
Before I could decline, he pressed the other button on the box, and the front slid open, revealing the awful contents. Inside was something that appeared to be some sort of mannequin, but like no store display I'd ever seen. It had the general shape of a human figure, but parts of it seemed to be made of a strange, polished material. Other parts looked disturbingly like actual flesh. Its face was partially formed with one perfectly sculpted eye and mouth, while the other half remained blank, waiting to be completed. I could have sworn the completed eye stared straight at me. As I looked at the monstrous eye, the buzzing sound intensified and my head was pounding, and I felt like I might double over.
This one, of course, is incomplete. It will still need to be verified at system maintenance once it is ready. That's when we test all of them before shipping them out. We need to make sure they're functional. Though they are quite obedient to their owners for the most part, they have a bad tendency to maim and kill anyone in the area who does not know how to control them. So many accidents in this very warehouse. Each one could have been avoided if people were just a bit more cautious.
He sighed languidly and shrugged his long shoulders. I was frozen in place. I had no idea why Mr. Jaspin was showing me this. He was saying that these things were what they were building with human parts, and that they could move? I did not know how he could think it was not a liability to show me the truth of the shipping operation. As if reading my mind, he spoke.
Now, my friend, I'm afraid you've seen everything you're going to see today.
Thank you, Mr. Jaspin. I swear I won't. I began, backing away slightly, desperate to convince him of my silence. His smile widened unnaturally.
Oh, you must be mistaken, my friend. You won't be leaving. Matthew informed me that you've been curious, opening one of our special containers in cold storage.
His voice remained conversational, almost friendly.
Such initiative deserves recognition.
My stomach dropped. Matt had seen me. The cameras I thought were blind spots weren't blind at all. It was a mistake, I stammered. I didn't see...
Oh, but you did.
Mr. Jaspin interrupted, his mercury eyes gleaming in the blue light.
As I said, your eyes betray your curiosity. Indeed, you have been curious. I wanted to reward that curiosity. I wanted you to have answers, some context. You deserve to know that much at least. You deserve to know what your sacrifice is for, and what you will help build in making it. Now, you'll contribute to our work in a more intimate capacity.
My heart sank as I listened to Mr. Jaspin. He was not going to let me leave. Before I could react, the mannequin in the container suddenly jerked to life. Its movements were stiff yet impossibly fast as it lurched forward. Something glinted in its partially formed hand. A syringe filled with amber liquid. I tried to scramble backward, but my feet seemed rooted to the floor. The mannequin's arms shot out with mechanical precision. I felt a sharp pain as the needle plunged into my neck. The amber fluid burned as it entered my bloodstream, spreading like liquid fire through my veins.
Perfect.
Mr. Jaspin's voice seemed to come from far away as darkness crept into the edges of my vision.
The first step to becoming something better.
My legs gave way beneath me. As consciousness slipped away, I caught a final glimpse of the mannequin's half-complete face, smiling down at me in frozen horror. I drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of movement and cold. So cold. My body felt impossibly heavy, as if gravity had doubled its pull on me alone. Through half-lidded eyes, I caught glimpses of harsh fluorescent lights passing overhead as I was wheeled somewhere on a gurney. Voices filtered through the haze of the sedative, distorted and dreamlike.
Place it with the rest.
Better to keep it on ice until then.
Maintenance soon. After that, we can get started.
Yes, sir. I will take him there now. The amber fluid burned through my veins, paralyzing my muscles while leaving my mind horrifyingly alert. I understood now why the eyes of those trapped in the containers could move while their bodies remained frozen. We were conscious prisoners in our own flesh. The gurney finally stopped moving. Through my drug-induced fog, I realized the sterile white walls and frigid air of the cold storage area, the same place where I'd found Lisa. The realization that I would soon join her, suspended in that amber prison, while I awaited my transformation into one of those mannequin things, sent me into a terrified spiral. I tried to scream, to thrash, to give any indication that I was still conscious, but my body refused to respond. I saw a vacant black box out of the corner of my eye, and I knew I would be trapped in this nightmare forever. I was about to just let go and close my eyes and await the nightmarish fate that was in store for me, when suddenly a pair of gloved hands lifted me from the gurney. I was dimly aware of some sensation in my neck. I thought someone may have stuck me with another needle. I felt a hot wave rush through my body and felt an agonized sensation of burning pain coursing through my limbs. It hurt like hell, but at least I could feel them again. More importantly, I could feel them slowly responding to the impulse to move. I heard a voice call out to me.
Get up, now!
It was Jean, her face materializing above me as my vision cleared. Her usually impassive features were contorted with urgency.
I've given you adrenaline and a neural stimulant. You'll be able to move in about 30 seconds, but it won't last long.
I tried to speak, but managed only a gurgling sound. Jean glanced nervously at the door.
We have 4 minutes before the 5 a.m. alarm.
She yanked at my arm, helping me into a sitting position.
If we're still here when that happens, we're dead.
My limbs felt like they were made of lead, but sensation was returning in waves of pins and needles. Ow! I croaked.
No time.
Jean snapped, pulling me to my feet. I stumbled, nearly falling, but she caught me with surprising strength.
I told you, I do not want another death on my conscience.
My brain was starting to clear as the stimulant took effect. Took an experimental step, then another, each one steadier than the last. Lisa, I managed to say. She's in one of those. We can't leave her. Jean's expression hardened.
She's already in suspension. We can't help her now. Not without equipment we don't have. We have to go, now.
Desperation surged through me as I glanced at the rows of containers. We can't just leave her.
We don't have a choice.
Jean hissed, dragging me toward the exit.
2 minutes until maintenance. Do you understand what that means?
My legs wobbled beneath me as I stumbled forward, the reality of our situation crystallizing through the chemical fog in my brain. Jean was right. We couldn't save Lisa now, not without becoming prisoners ourselves. The best I could do was survive to find help. We reached the main floor just as the first warning light began to flash. The cameras? I managed to ask as we hurried across the warehouse floor.
Loop feed for the next 90 seconds.
She replied tersely.
Matt thinks you're already in cold storage and I'm at my station. When they realize we're gone, it'll be too late.
The distant wail of the maintenance alarm began to sound as we ran. We were almost at the exit when a deafening crash echoed through the warehouse. I spun around to see a tower of stacked crates collapsing toward us like a timber avalanche. Jean shoved me hard, sending me sprawling as wooden boxes rained down where I had been. I was not crushed, but now there was a wall of freight between us and the emergency exit.
Find another way out!
Jean shouted, her voice barely audible over the wailing alarm. I scrambled to my feet, disoriented. The maintenance alarm reached its crescendo, the lights dimming to an eerie red glow that cast everything in blood-tinged shadows. Too late. We were too late. A mechanical grinding sound reverberated through the building as multiple doors began to open simultaneously. All the staging area doors, where the red cargo boxes were taken, had opened up. From the darkness beyond, something was moving. Not one thing, but dozens of them. They moved with jerky, unnatural precision, some still bearing the horrifying half-human faces I'd seen earlier. Others were more complete, polished, and perfect in their uncanny resemblance to people, save for the blank emptiness in their eyes. Some wore Victorian-era clothes, which made a grim sort of sense despite the imminent danger. Their limbs clicked and whirred as they filled into the warehouse floor, fanning out with methodical efficiency. The buzzing noise they generated was intolerable. I clutched at my head in pain and saw Jean grit her teeth and try to ignore the maddening din. The mannequins moved in unison with a terrible purpose, their unblinking eyes scanning methodically. One spotted us and raised a rigid arm in our direction. The others immediately turned, their movements synchronizing with horrifying precision.
Run!
Jean screamed, grabbing my arm and yanking me toward the loading docks. My legs felt leaden, the stimulant already beginning to fade, but terror gave me renewed strength as we sprinted across the warehouse floor. Behind us, the mannequins gave chase, their footsteps a nightmarish staccato against the concrete. They didn't run so much as glide, their movements unnaturally smooth despite their mechanical nature. The buzzing intensified, vibrating through my skull until I thought my head would split open. Jean slammed into the loading dock doors, frantically punching a code into the keypad.
Come on.
She muttered, glancing over her shoulder. The nearest mannequin was less than 20 yards away, its partially formed face frozen in a grotesque smile. The keypad flashed red.
Damn it!
Jean pounded the panel with her fist.
They've changed the codes.
I spun around, searching desperately for another escape route. The office area was too far, and the emergency exits would be sealed during maintenance. My eyes fell on the loading bay. Maybe we could get out that way. Jean caught on immediately and pivoted, racing alongside me. The mannequins were gaining ground with each passing second, their movements becoming more fluid as they closed in. The buzzing in my head was almost unbearable now, like thousands of insects boring into my brain. We raced on, the clattering nightmare procession of mannequins close behind us. I heard Jean scream as one grabbed her leg and she fell hard. She cried out,
Just keep going.
I stopped and looked in a panic and saw the intercom system panel nearby, where she was struggling and remembered something odd from the rules. I had no idea if it would work, but it was our only hope at this point. I reached out, and pressed the button, and almost immediately the buzzing distortion of the swarm of mannequins created a terrible feedback loop in the intercom. That caused them to start convulsing and twitching uncontrollably. The one who had Jean let go, and I helped her back to her feet, and we ran on towards the loading bay. We reached the bay, and there was still a truck waiting to be unloaded. Jean yanked open the passenger door and shoved me inside before scrambling around to the driver's side. "Do you know how to drive this thing?" I gasped, my vision swimming as the sedative fought against the adrenaline in my system. Jean slid into the seat, her hands already moving across the dashboard.
7 years.
She muttered.
You learn things.
Her fingers found a hidden panel beneath the steering column, revealing a keypad similar to the ones throughout the warehouse. She punched in a sequence, and the engine roared to life. Behind us, the mannequins had reached the truck, their blank faces pressed against the windows, hollow eyes staring with hunger. One began pounding on the driver's side window, the impact creating spiderweb cracks across the glass.
Hold on!
Jean shouted, throwing the truck into reverse. The massive vehicle lurched backward, crushing several mannequins beneath its wheels. The sickening sound of breaking plaster and something far too organic mingled with the engine's roar. The truck smashed through the loading bay doors, tearing them off almost completely. Nearby, there were panicked cries from the assembled workers who had been waiting outside for the maintenance to be over. Jean and I watched in horror as the crowd was set upon by the murderous mannequins. They ripped and tore through their unknown colleagues. Jean glanced back once, pain and guilt racking her. She drove on, taking us out of there. The truck smashed through the fence surrounding the facility, its tires screeching as Jean pushed it to its limits. We sped down the empty highway, the lights of PT shipping receding in the rearview mirror. Neither of us spoke for miles, the horror of what we'd witnessed too fresh, too overwhelming. "Where are we going?" I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Jean's knuckles were white on the steering wheel.
Away. As far as possible.
She glanced at me, her usual stoicism cracked by fear.
We need to separate. It's safer that way.
"What about Lisa? All those people?"
We can't help them.
She said flatly, though I caught a slight tremor in her voice.
Not now. Maybe not ever.
By dawn, we'd crossed the state line. Jean pulled into an abandoned gas station, the truck's engine ticking as it cooled.
This is where we part ways.
She said, reaching into her pocket. She handed me a thick envelope.
Emergency cash, since you never got your paycheck.
"Jean, I can't."
Take it.
She insisted.
I've been planning my exit for years, just never had the courage until now.
A ghost of a smile touched her lips.
Guess you gave me that.
"What will you do?" She shrugged.
Disappear. Maybe find evidence, maybe just survive.
She opened her door.
Don't contact me, don't look for me. Don't trust anyone.
I nodded my head, and before she left, I told her, "Jean, I just wanted to say thanks for everything." She looked back at me with a hint of a genuine smile and said,
Don't waste it. Stay safe, and maybe I will see you again someday.
I watched her walk away, a silhouette against the rising sun. In minutes, she had disappeared into the tree line, leaving me alone with a stolen truck and a head full of nightmares. I abandoned the vehicle a mile later, wiping down everything I touched. The envelope she gave me contained $3,000 in cash. For the last 2 weeks, I have been laying low. I can't go home. I have no idea how far the reach of PT is. I'm holed up in a motel, a run-down establishment where the desk clerk takes cash without questions and the cleaning staff never knock. The peeling wallpaper and musty carpet have become my sanctuary, my prison, at least for now. I spend my days poring over newspapers, searching for any mention of PT shipping, of missing people, of anything that might help me understand what I'd witnessed. And at night, I dream of mannequins with human eyes. I considered calling Jean, but she insisted I don't, at least for now. I hope she is okay wherever she is. I thought I might be safe for a time, but last night dispelled the illusion that I will ever be safe again. The knock on my door came at 3:17 a.m. 3 sharp raps that jolted me from restless sleep. I froze, heart hammering against my ribs. Nothing at that hour could be good. Another knock came, more insistent. I slid silently from the bed, grabbing the knife I stole from a dinner 2 days ago. The people showed only darkness. Someone had covered it from the outside.
Package delivery.
A voice called, mechanical and flat. I backed away from the door, knife clutched in trembling fingers. There's a soft thud as something hits the carpet outside of my room, followed by receding footsteps. I waited for a while before daring to crack open the door. The parking lot was empty, no one was around, yet there, on the welcome mat, was a small brown package wrapped in plain paper. My name was handwritten across the front in an elegant script that seemed oddly familiar. I retrieved it quickly and locked the door behind me, sliding the chain into place, though I know it would offer little protection against the kind of threat I feared. The package was lightweight, no more than a pound, and made no sound when I shook it. For a long moment, I simply stared at it, debating whether to open it or burn it. Curiosity won. It always did. I tore away the brown paper, and inside was a white box, the kind used for clothing gifts. I held my breath as I lifted the lid, already suspecting some horror to be there. The stench hit me first. Chemical preservatives barely masking the sickly sweet smell of decay. Folded neatly inside, like some grotesque piece of fabric, was a section of human skin. I stumbled backward, knocking over the bedside lamp as bile rose in my throat. It took several moments before I could force myself to look again. The skin had been carefully preserved, the edges trimmed with surgical precision. A tattoo was clearly visible on the torn piece of skin. A dragon, intricately detailed, its colors still vibrant against the pallid flesh. Lisa's tattoo. My legs gave way and I collapsed to the floor, a silent scream building in my chest. They found her. They killed her, or worse, turned her into one of those things. Then I saw a small note in the package next to the flayed skin. As I read the note, my hands trembled and I realized I cannot get away. I read the elegant script of the carefully folded note.
My dear friend, the proud tailor always keeps an eye on its property. Miss Lisa has contributed magnificently to our latest creation. Perhaps you'll be reunited soon. We haven't forgotten you. Yours in anticipation, H.J.
I dropped the note, scrambling away until my back hit the wall. They knew where I was. They'd been watching me this entire time. The realization crashed over me. I'd never escaped at all. With trembling hands, I gathered the horrific contents of the box and shoved them into the bathroom trash can. I couldn't bring myself to touch the skin again. That piece of Lisa that proved her fate. I poured a bottle of cheap whiskey over everything and set it ablaze, watching as the flames consumed the evidence of PT's reach. The smoke alarm began to wail, but I ignored it, fixated on making sure every scrap burned to ash. Only when the flames threatened to spread did I douse them with water from the shower. The room reeked of smoke, whiskey, and something else. The lingering chemical smell that would forever remind me of those containers. I have to do something. They can't get away with this. But what can I do? They will never let me go. They will never stop trying to reclaim their inventory. And just like that, it's over. The floor is scorched, the lights are flickering, the paperwork is immense. That concludes shipping and handling, a 4-part breakdown in warehouse logistics and basic human decency from the deranged desk of RedBadAndy. Trembling applause for our voice cast, Geoff Sturtevant, Victoria Voss, and me, Lucius Voss, for surviving long enough to clock out. And as always, I'm still here, Lucius Voss, the phantom on the late shift, and the reason the storage room lights flicker after everyone leaves. Until next time, remember, some jobs are worth dying for. This wasn't one of them. Good night.